like Hillary Clinton. Gerald, what's your take on Brian Williams?
It's a big story, Alex, not because he's just a typical prostitute, because these are the people that lied us into the Iraq war. These are the ones that sold the war, and little low-life boys like him just keep selling it. A war based on lies, and they just keep the lie going by bringing it to whole new levels. We did a Trends Journal report, a special report, back in June of 2008. And we had some quotes from people like Katie Couric in response to Scott McClellan's book, who showed how he was the spokesperson there, the con man for Bush for a while, his press secretary, and showing how that they pushed the war. Here's a quote from Katie Couric. She says, quote, "There was such a significant march to war, and people who questioned it very early on, and really as the war progressed, were considered unpatriotic. There was a lot of pressure from the Bush White House. There was a sense of pressure from the corporations who own where we work and from government itself to really squash any kind of dissent." This is from Katie Couric. This is from the woman who you might want to remember. She was the one that said as the war broke out, "I just want you to know, I think Navy SEALs rock." So you got one quote after another. This is from Jessica Yellen when she was with MSNBC. Quote, "The press corps was under enormous pressure from corporate executives, frankly, to make sure this was a war that was presented in a way that was consistent with the patriotic fervor of the nation." Boy, Goring and Hitler would have been proud of these people. What a bunch of low-life little scum and scumettes. And Brian Williams is just one of them. Another little boy with a big mouth, a bad attitude, and cojones the size of a mothball. I go on. "I was in Kuwait for the buildup of the war, and yes, we heard from the Pentagon on my cell phone the minute they heard us report something that they didn't like. The tone at the time was quite extraordinary." Hey, you know who said that? NBC's Brian Williams. Going back to Yellen. "The higher the president's ratings, the more pressure I had from news executives to put on a positive story about the president. This is America. You people are disgusting. You'll get sold out and buy out for pennies on the dollar. You know why? Because you're prostitutes. You're whores. These are whores for a war based on lies. Based on lies, let's remember this.
Gerald, I want to go to that, but since you mentioned this, I was going to bring this up later. MSNBC suffers lowest ratings in a decade. They only have, it says 55,000 viewers an hour in a key demographic. Their average show a little over 100,000. Their top shows about 250,000. That is joke level. I mean, you do one YouTube video and it's 200,000 views. This is incredible. But last night, I called this reporter, Kelly Evans, that attacked Senator Rand Paul for saying we shouldn't be forced to take vaccines and engaging in propaganda and saying vaccines are totally safe and effective. I called her a media whore, pimping out her audience. Well, notice MSNBC, CNBC, Media Matters, Raw Story, they all ran similar headlines because they all take their talking points from Media Matters. They write the first article, the White House runs it, then they copy it. So a direct White House talking point. Speaking about talking points, Alex Jones defends listener Rand Paul on vaccines by attacking whore, they have that in quotes, trash, tramp, filth, scum. Now, you actually read the transcript. They admit, yeah, I called her a media whore and using your term, a prostitute, even gave you credit for that. But then, oh, Gerald Celente is calling her a streetwalker, or I am. No, we're not. A streetwalker has a lot more credibility than these ghoulish vampires getting all these pharmaceutical dollars and selling wars and the rest of it. And then there's such media whores, they imply that I physically called her a streetwalker when I never did that. This is why they have no viewers, Gerald. They're a pack of lying scum. Sorry, go ahead.
They are. Here's another quote, by the way, from another piece of lying scum. This was Charlie Gibson. Everybody loved him on ABC. Quote, I can remember getting in trouble with administration officials. Oh, you got in trouble, little Charlie? Ooh, because of asking questions they didn't feel comfortable with. Why, you little boy. I'll go on. There was just a drumbeat of support from the administration, and it is not our job to debate them. Fourth estate? No, man. You're working on the estate. That's the brothel down the corner from the White House. You are a prostitute.
Do you agree that actual hookers are a lot more moral than these people?
Nah, they both do it. They get paid for a couple of bucks to do anything. You name the trick, you give them enough money, and they'll do it. They all show their colors here. Every one of these people admitted what cowards they are. Katie Couric, hey, I got pressure from the corporation. You think I want to lose my job? No. Charlie Gibson, we shouldn't question them, but boy, they'll grill you or me, won't they? These are all little lying people. They are a disgrace to America because here's the big deal here, Alex. They sold us a war based on lies. And here was from one of the second in command of the liars in chief. Vice President Dick Cheney said in his pre-war pitch, quote, simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Dick Cheney, another lying prostitute whore, or a king whore. We'll be right back. Gerald, finish the whole quote. Gerald Celente is our guest. I'm Alex Jones. There's our mighty control room crew doing a fabulous job putting up documents and articles for every claim we make. The Good Ship InfoWars continues on. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Gerald Celente is our guest. We're going to open the phones up later in the hour for your questions or comments for Gerald, specifically on trends or news items. 800-259-9231. Let's have some first-time callers. It'll be wide open phones in the third hour. 800-259-9231. Gerald, we all know about the WMD lies, the bipartisan fraud. But I love how these prostitutes come out later like Gibbs and says, yeah, of course drones are operating. They're killing people. We're told to say it doesn't exist even though it's public. But I think they've jumped the shark saying 2 + 2 = 5 and raising the debt limit doesn't raise the debt limit. I mean, look at MSNBC. Inside MSNBC's impending shakeup, cancellation, reboots. Well, I mean, you can't resurrect a person that's this dead. They represent a view that's popular with 7% of the American people. That's what Congress's approval rating is. I don't see how they can resurrect themselves. Have the Walking Dead, in fact, that's what the mainstream media is. They're prostitutes, they're dinosaur media, my term. But I really think they're the Walking Dead media. I mean, do they understand how hated they are and the fact that almost no one even watches them anymore, Gerald?
The prostitutes care? No, as long as they get paid. And here's the deal, Alex. This is a much bigger story. Again, that's why I wanted to talk about it. They lied us into war. The facts are there. From Cheney beginning the lies, Bush keeping me going, Lisa Rice, and colon, the perfect word for what
Condom and colon, yeah. Through. That'll be a law firm.
Yeah. They lied us into war, and these people facilitated it. This is a big story. They have slaughtered how many, what is the estimate? 1 million people?
1.3 million, Lancet Medical Journal as of 2008. God knows what it is now.
And what are we're seeing our troops, 22 of them committing suicide a day?
Oh, they got them on secret death lists. They won't even give them health care.
22 a day? So what I'm saying is the importance of this is that little low-life boys and girls like Katie Couric and Brian Williams, Janet Yellen, Charlie Gibson. Oh, by the way, fairness and accuracy in reporting. They had done a study of the lead up to the Iraq War. They only brought in 1% of the people to talk against the war. The rest were all in favor, and only 6% neutral.
Donahue had the top ratings, 5 million viewers a night on MSNBC, and they fired him because he was a real liberal. He was actually against the war and torture, so they fired their only star. And they fired Ventura because he was against it too.
So the importance of this is how easily propaganda sells. And what I keep telling people, you know, Mr. Celente, what are some good business opportunities for me? And I say, look, the big one is propaganda. You could do it cheaply, stupidly, and you could get great results. So I'm mentioning this because of the Iraq War. That's costing us, according to what? Stiglitz, about $3 trillion. And based on lies, but here's the important element. Just as these little low-life people sold us the Iraq War, get ready for them to sell us the next one. And the power of the mainstream media should not be really downplayed. Even though a lot of people don't follow them anymore, the people pick up the sound bites from them.
No, I totally agree. Even though their channels themselves have almost no viewers, they put out the talking point on MSNBC, CNN, then it's picked up by the comedy shows, the TV shows, the media, and is regurgitated locally, so they still have great power.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is just as they sold us the Iraq War, just as they keep selling the Iraq and Afghan war, get ready for these same little people of no morality, no dignity, and no self-respect to bow down, suck up, and start selling us the next war. The proof is here. The proof is in the lies stated.
You know, that's
Brian
true. They
Williams.
helped put ISIS and Al-Qaeda in. Now we've got to go fight them. Our troops have got to go die fighting them. It'll be a real war, but a staged event helping them get into power. And then these people sit back, not facing any of the gunfire, but then claiming they were under gunfire because Brian Williams wants to be a hero on top of it. He is such a fraud.
A total, like the rest of them whose names I mentioned and whose quotes I read. I'm not casting judgment from them. I am analyzing their words and giving a description for who they are from what they said.
They are media whores. They are whores of the system. I mean, it's just a fact. And they should be proud of that. I mean, they should put a red light out. I guess they kind of have. Gerald, let's come back, get into some of the top trends and then phone calls. But we have this special report first that's very powerful on hacking cars. Stay with us.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com. Now, back in 2011, we wrote an article here at Infowars talking about the Progressive Auto Insurance dongle, the Snapshot. Now, what that is a device you plug into your car that allows Progressive to see whether or not you are a safe driver. It monitors your speed, your braking habits, all of that good stuff, and it sends the information back to them and lets them know if they should lower your insurance or not. Well, here we are, 2015. And we now know, based off of Forbes and the Hacker News, that this is a device that can be easily hacked into. They can stop your brakes, accelerate your car, and do pretty much whatever. Now, we all know the incident that happened with my friend Michael Hastings, where his car just shot down the road, exploded, hit a tree. This is something that we live in now, a digital age. We are now at a point where almost every car is able to be hacked into because we have these computer systems inside it. Now they're trying to get you to plug a device into your car that will actually allow hackers to get into it. So just a few days after Michael Hastings died, I received in the mail from Progressive Auto Insurance, because that's who I had at the time, was this box that said the Snapshot. Open it up and it says plug it in your car and get your insurance rate lowered. Well, I threw that away because I was disgusted by the fact of what just happened to my friend. I didn't trust anything being put into my car. But wonder what would happen if I hadn't thrown that away and I actually plugged that device into my car.
Hey, what you looking at?
What's going on?
Well, you look like you're here to save some money on your car insurance.
Yeah, I don't know what I should get. I was checking the snapshot thing out. What do you mean? What do you know about it?
Well, basically you just need to agree to let us track all of your movements. This will just easily plug into your car. We'll track your movements, upload it online. Probably the cloud will be really helpful so we can just kind of see if you're a safe driver.
Well, I saw in a Forbes article that these things could be hacked. Do you know anything about that?
Forbes? Huh, I don't think so.
Is it safe?
Very safe and effective.
Well, I guess I'll go with this. It seems like a good thing to try.
You're making the right decision.
Sweet.
And sure enough, he had a big story on CIA corruption coming out. He was in contact with WikiLeaks and was about to do a big data dump. And the official WikiLeaks has come out and said they talked to him 1 hour before his car blew up. And he said, the FBI's after me. They're investigating me. We've got to hurry up and get this done. Well, they got you done. And the police instantly said no foul play, which is always suspicious. The engine got blown down the road. Witnesses said the car caught on fire and blew up driving down the street.
Yes, I have the target now. No, it isn't the ringleader. It's codename Little Biggs. Yes, the target is in the vehicle. Do I have the go-ahead to terminate? Roger, standing by for clearance. Roger that. Termination is a go. Cutting brakes. Disabling airbags. Accelerating car to a high speed. The target is no longer a threat. One down, 5 to go.
That report is up on Infowars.com. It's very powerful. It deserves to get millions of views. It needs to. Car hacking, someone dies at the end is the name of the video. We're going to retweet it, Facebook it. Please put it on your Twitter, your Facebook, because all of the appliances in your house, everything the government admits is to be controlled and surveil you. Samsung has come out and said their televisions are watching and listening to you. So, quote, watch what you have to say. Gerald Celente, I want to get into trends here with you. And, of course, trendsresearch.com. And I want to break that down and then take some calls. But hearing that report, folks can go to the site and see it. It's more powerful if you see it. This is really what's going on. And we believe, and we went to California to investigate, that Hastings was basically hacked and driven into the tree. We talked to his family and others. He was running for his life from the feds and a Homeland Security counterterrorism force. He was involved in secret operations. He was probably CIA. We talked to his wife, who thought he'd been probably killed. Joe Biggs knew her, went to the funeral. He was good friends with Hastings. And then she changed her whole story. But regardless, the technology itself to surveil and tax us by the mile, and now it's all being announced. Are we stupid enough to let this happen, Gerald Celente?
Well, we're not, but most people are. And it just goes back to what you were talking about with the vaccinations. I heard that woman on Fox say something to the effect that, you know, this is a time when you should listen to Big Brother. So fear and hysteria are very easy sales to make. And it goes back to the Brian Williams. It goes back to propaganda. So there are people like us, and that's why they attack people like you and me, because we don't take their baloney or buy their BS, and we can't be paid off. We say what we believe and what we think is factual, rather than sucking up and selling their lies. So I think the majority of Americans will gladly buy it because, quote, they're going to protect us and make us safe, just like with this vaccination thing. By the way, here's a story that no one's talking about in the news. I started going back and looking up some old research. I remember when they were selling estrogen for women, hormone replacements. You're getting into menopause? We got a solution for you. And they kept selling this it nonstop. And anyone that came out against it, they were branded just like they're branding people now that don't want to inoculate a tiny little baby that comes out of the mother's womb after being in there for 9 months and then shooting it up with his whole array of unknown toxins and saying it's okay.
Yeah, where's the common sense? I mean, any idiot knows that's not smart.
They did the same thing with estrogen. Then when they found out that it did everything to kill women that they said they were going to save them with, they hardly talked about it. I wrote about this in detail back in 2002.
I remember when it all came out that estrogen had given millions of women cancer.
Yes, but remember how those same little low-life people on NBC, CBS, ABC, the Cartoon News Network, CNN, went after everyone that said that these were dangerous to women's health. And then when they were proven to be dangerous, not a peep from the prostitutes. So again, the biggest story is, going back to the hacking, is it's a takeover. It's the top story in the Trends Journal. The grand manipulation. By the way, that's written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, of course you know, on your show, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. This is a complete takeover. The government has been taken over. The multinationals are in charge. This is a conspiracy theory. Oh, how about that Trans-Pacific Partnership that nobody's talking about, huh? Isn't that a nice one?
Well, that's what's frustrating, is that it's all out in the open. They don't even hide it anymore.
Because people, smartphones, how about dumb phones? How about all this technology has made people even less connected because their minds are going into so many different directions that they're not paying attention to the facts. It's easy to manipulate the masses now more than ever. By the way, the French have just proven they're as stupid as Americans. And I could give you the proof. Go back to before 9/11. George Bush just gets elected. He's only in office, what, about 8 months? His popularity is going below 50% after just getting elected. 9/11 happens. Man, the imbecile in chief became a brilliant guy. Go look what happened over there in France. Hollande's popularity rating was 12%. Now, with that attack over there, it's pushing up over 50%. People buy propaganda really quickly, and now that they're in control of all these different elements that wire us together, their power is even greater. And that's why they try to, Media Matters. Media Matters for this. They're a wasted organization. All they do is pump the Democratic BS baloney and attack anyone that attacks their little boys and girls.
Gerald, I want to race through, because I promised to go to callers. They want to talk to you. They got questions. But race through some of the trends that are developing, because you've pretty accurately guessed what was coming up last year into this year. What else are you watching right now?
All right, on the economic front, look at the volatility in the markets. Yesterday, crude was down in West Texas, 5.5%, 6%. The day before it was up. Now it's back up again, 5.5%, 6%. Look at the markets. The market will be up 250 points. All of a sudden, 20 minutes before closing, it's down. Day after day, the volatility in the markets, the equity markets worldwide since the beginning of this year, is like nothing I have ever seen before. It's out of control.
Doesn't it speak to rigging? It hurts the average investor, but helps the insiders?
It's all rigged. Again, the grand manipulation. And one of the other stories in the Trends Journal is bankism. That's written by Nomi Prinz. Of course, she wrote the book, All the President's Bankers.
Goldman Sachs, former managing director.
Right. Now, what do we have here? This is not capitalism. Everybody grow up about it. It's fascism. There is no such thing in capitalism as too big to fail. Bankism is the merger of state and corporate powers, and it's going on everywhere. You talked about the average investor. Here's how they're shafting all of us. They're doing it in Europe. They're doing it in China. They're doing it in Japan. They're doing it in the U.S. They're doing it everywhere with record low interest rates. They have not raised interest rates in the United States since 2006. What does that mean? It means they used to have a thing when we were young people that you put money in a bank and they had a thing called savings account. You get more money than you return.
Now they're talking about making you pay to keep money in a bank.
That's right. They have negative interest rates now in Europe, 0.25% to keep your money there. So now what this has done is all this cheap money is going to the banks so they can loan it to us back at any rate that they could get as they're borrowing it at 0.25%. So they have these payday loans, 800%, credit card loans, what, 30%?
And they're getting it literally for free.
Exactly. Now you look at the growth in the stock market. Half the growth in the stock market has come from companies buying back their stock because they are members of the Too Big to Fail Club, the Bankism Club and the Grand Manipulation Club. They're the Davos boys and girls. And here's what they do. They borrow the money for almost nothing. They buy back their stock. They raise it up. And then they make all this dough because they're on the inside. The other money from the cheap rates has come from mergers and acquisitions because they too could borrow the money for almost nothing. Merger and acquisition activity in 2014 was back to 2007 levels. Now let's put it into perspective for all of us. Even these cheap interest rates have not been enough to boost the housing market. The only growth is coming from the top. 40% of first-time home buyers used to be people between 25 to 35. Now they can't afford to buy homes anymore. That number's down to 24, 26%. So the only deal this is doing, whether it was the new deal they just did over there in Europe with Mario Draghi, the guy that was the former head of the Goldman Sachs gang, the European division, that's now the head of the president of the European Central Bank, all of this quantitative easing is only enriching the rich. I'm not making this up. Here's the number. You know it. Oxfam came out with it. By next year, 1% of the people will have more dough than 99% of the rest of us.
And that is a tiny percent of the 1%. They're then going to scapegoat nouveau riche and upper middle class, and they're financing class warfare. Davos is to sick the giant poor mass on any wealth that's there that isn't part of the inside club, and then they've got pressure from above and below. They take over the whole system. We'll get to more trends with Gerald Celente here in a moment, but let's get to some calls for Gerald Celente. Marty in Texas, you're a first-time caller. You're on the air with Gerald Celente.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Have a couple of quick cogent points, not necessarily...
It's okay. Go ahead.
Gerald. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, as to the mandatory vaccination push that's going on now, I have an idea for actually being able to do something about it, and it's a hashjacking campaign. Every post, every tweet, everything that goes out there should contain the hashtag "My Body, My Choice." That way, it co-opts that popular meme.
Absolutely, we should be hijacking this. Listen, I'm not trying to be mean, but we got Gerald for a limited time. I'm going to put you on hold and come back to you. These are calls for Gerald Celente on trends. And we don't really screen calls, but when a guest is on, my heavens, just try to address it there. But I love the fact you're trying to take action, just that we'll get to you after Gerald goes. And I want to get into the whole vaccine thing then, so we'll hold you over till then. Matt in Idaho, first-time caller. You're on the air with Gerald Celente.
I think I called about the vaccination, so if you want to put me back on hold,
okay,
that's fine.
okay. But, okay, I don't know what's going on with the calls right now, but I was saying to the callers on air, this is just clear the board. Shut the board down, clear it. We'll have to do that. For the folks up at GCN, they're taking the calls. We're taking calls for Gerald Celente. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. And listen, I'm not mad. I'm not criticizing anybody. I love our listeners. I love our callers. We have the most open call system in the world for talk radio. We don't try to control what you say. We don't censor what you say. But when we say we're on a topic, It's next hour that I was going to open the phones up so people got confused on your vaccine stories. Are you for vaccines? Are you against them? Have you had good results? Have you had bad results? That's what I did yesterday. Nobody called in supporting them. All we got was horror stories. So I want to hear from you again after Gerald leaves us at 5 after or so. But I do want to take a few calls for Gerald, because folks were always calling us, wanting us to, to get him on or ask Gerald this, ask Gerald that. We will come back and take some quick questions for Gerald Celente and get a few more trends with him. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Stay with us. I'm going to Mike here in a moment, listening on KSCO there in Santa Cruz, San Francisco. Gerald Celente is our guest. The website is trendsresearch.com. We're going to keep Gerald a little bit into the next hour to get into a few more of his trends. Then I'm going to open the phones up on vaccines. So I'm sorry I wasn't clear with the listeners. We're talking to Gerald Celente right now. We got a loaded phone bank if folks want to talk to him. So Mike in California, listening on the great Michael's Whirling Station. Go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah, glad Gerald's on. Always glad to hear Gerald. Hey, I have a question for you on real estate. In 2008, we invested in tangible assets of a significant amount to shelter our savings from the devaluation cycle. My wife's been looking at real estate, and I just want Gerald to comment on what he thinks about real estate as an investment for those that have a limited amount of resources sealed in tangible assets.
Well, I don't give financial advice. I'm not permitted to as a trend forecaster. I'm not a financial advisor, only speaking for myself. Mm-hmm. If you have a piece of real estate, you think it's going to be profitable, and you're smart enough to understand the negatives and positives about it, to me, it's a good investment. Again, but not to do it on a speculative level.
Like you said, you doubled down on America and bought a bunch of real estate as well. You're not backing down.
No, I bought a 1750s building, a 1763, and a 1774. So I bought it. It's out of passion and out of an understanding that these things are.
It's a love of art and culture. You literally bought into 1776.
Yes, and I did because I'm an American, and as I say, my blood is Italian, but my heart's American. And these people that say love it or leave it, I say no, you leave it. I bought these buildings because I want to restore America back to the core principles of our founding fathers. So that's why I invest in this. But for the caller, if you think it's a good investment, the real estate goes like this, but it always keeps going higher. So if it's something that you're doing out of wisdom of what the potential is, I would suggest you consider it seriously.
Yeah, if you make a good buy, it's in the right area, and you understand you're a long-term deal. And if it's a piece of property you can make some money on with a business while it's there, I think that's the best type of investment.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Not for speculation, but for growth.
Yeah, well, I guess the consideration is, to know what is a bubble market. I mean, some of these price index.
You can't tell because I talked before about the volatility in the markets. I also talked about how these low interest rates are not driving demand. So you have to make your own choice.
Sure.
Because I believe we're going to see a crash.
I agree. The Austin bubble's already popping, the biggest in the country. Aaron in California. Thanks, Mike. Aaron in California. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Celente, you, for years, were the top trends forecaster, but you made some predictions for 2014. You said gold 2000 and a financial collapse by March 2014. That did not happen. You were dethroned as top trends forecaster. That's the facts. It's all on record.
All right, well, let me get him to respond. Those are some huge claims. Yeah. I believe we're already in an artificial...
Let me go on. It's easy to respond. I never said gold would go to 2000. I said I believe gold should be over 2000. I never said it would go there. On the crash, I believe that the Federal Reserve was going to raise interest rates by March. I was wrong.
It's like somebody dying and they keep giving them adrenaline until their parents get there. I've actually gone and seen my friend die, and they were waiting on his dad to get there, so they were giving him adrenaline. He got to see his parents, everybody, and then he passed out and died. I mean, that's America. They're just pumping adrenaline in to keep us alive. But, it's going to crash. All the experts are saying that. We'll be right back. Gerald's been proven accurate, but I want to be able to elaborate on that. I mean, look at what Trump's saying. It's the fundamentals show a crash, okay? When it comes, we don't know. If you tune into CNBC, they say private mega central banks control the world with free money that they issue to themselves. World government's being established. They want $100 trillion every decade, paid through basically the Davos group to George Soros and the Goldman Sachs gang and the rest of the crew. We know, I mean, it's just all over the place now. Gerald was saying it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I was saying it because you could see where trillions in debt was going, thousands of trillions in derivatives, all this garbage. You know there's going to be some type of collapse. Governments are digging in. Gerald had said last year, or about 2 years ago, that he believed 2014 could be the time for this, that QE had to end. It's still going. Now there's a world race. So will it be inflation or deflationary? The Saudis aren't just trying to bankrupt U.S. shale producers or the Russians. I believe they're introducing depressionary prices to actually attempt to pull down the inflationary spike that we see in this Weimar money printing. But regardless, it's a juggling act as the real economy dies, as savings go down, as joblessness increases, as wages go down, as 40-something million people went from full-time to part-time under Obamacare. As that kicks in, and as Obama's energy policies kick in, I don't see how the economy won't implode. And now most analysts are just saying it's any minute. But who knows, in this Alice in Wonderland thing, Gerald, how long can this go? I mean, we've got all these big top guys saying it's going to, get out of the market. Doom's about to happen. What do you think?
Again, the volatility is telling the story. And by the way, these low oil prices, if you go back to 1986, that's one of the ways I made my name as a trend forecaster. I was in the Wall Street Journal. I had predicted that the crash of 87 in the beginning of the year, in January, I said the market was going to crash. And one of the fundamentals were crashing oil prices. Yes, the Saudis want to get rid of competition. But again, as I mentioned before, you look at the commodity prices around the world. You can buy a ton of reinforcement rod, rebar, in China cheaper than you can a ton of cabbage. There's so much product on the market. You go to any store now and you're seeing slashed prices of, you name the product. Now on the inflation, yes, it's a Weimar type of inflation. It's not as though in supply and demand, where there's so much demand that the price of the product is going up. What they're doing around the world is devaluing their currencies, so it's going to cost people more to buy things. For example, you look what's going on in Europe. Now that Draghi announced, and they knew that they were going to announce their version of QE, what has happened to the euro? Oh, it's at 11-year lows. No kidding. So now it's costing all the people more money to buy things. But the good news is
40% of young people are unemployed in places like Spain. We're in a global depression. They're just papering it over because production's been so high traditionally. We've got a lot of baubles and still have food, but even that is starting to wear thin.
They're papering it over with the word deflation. It's depression. It's not deflation. And that's the big lie.
That's right. Oil prices went down during the Great Depression. That's what happens.
Exactly. All the prices are going down, but people are making less and their currencies are being devalued, just like Franklin Roosevelt devalued our currency when they took us off the gold reserve. And remember, the dollar was pegged to gold. What was it, at $20 and something cents an ounce?
And then gold went up after that.
They called in all the gold, and then they repegged the price of gold to $35 an ounce, which means you just lost 70% of your purchasing power. It's called a depression. You go around the world, I was mentioning, at the record low interest rates you're seeing. It's costing everybody more to buy things, but what they're doing is they're juicing the equity markets. In anticipation of Draghi's QE, now you're looking at the European markets at 7-year highs.
Well, here's an example. They had Gibbs, when he was press secretary, said there is no drone program when it was a public program. And it's the same thing. There is no depression forming when there is one. I mean, it's this game of, I'll never forget, they had whoever that blonde was, Perino or whatever her name is, as the press secretary, and they were asking her under Bush, are oil prices up because the dollar's been devalued? And she said, I can't, answer that. And they said, well, we need you to tell us if there's dollar devaluation, as if, tell us if the sun came out this morning. It's just total mind control. I want to go to some more calls here. Man, I wish Gerald was wrong. I wish I was wrong. I wish we weren't going into a depression. But all the indicators are there. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down, but it's going down. Let's talk to Kyle in PA. Thanks for holding her on the air with Gerald.
Hey, guys. Well, historically speaking, the collapse always happens in the last year of a sitting presidential term. And historically speaking, the collapse is always dramatically larger than the one previously to it. My question for Gerald is, what does American life look like in a collapse of the size that we're looking?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
I have a saying, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And they're losing it around the world. But we don't have to have it happen like that. The elections are coming up, and no one's really excited that I know of who the potential candidates are, choosing from the Bloods or the Crips, or as people prefer to call them, the Republicans and Democrats. To me, they're murderers and thieves. Their records prove it. Again, look what's going on around the world. Out of nowhere, in less than a year, the Podemos party, they just had a rally over 300,000 people turned out in Spain. In Greece, the Syriza party. In Italy, between the Five-Star Movement and the Northern League. In UK with UKIP. You're seeing it, like them or not, dislike them. I'm not getting into that. What I'm saying is, whether it's Le Pen in France, you name the country.
Yeah, it's right-wing, it's liberal, it's socialist. Everywhere, people are electing, quote, radical, anti-globalist, anti-New World Order, anti-EU parties.
So what I'm saying is, to prevent what we can see coming and to see chaos in the streets, because, hey, they just did it in New York. Now they got terror response groups. We've seen the militarization of the police.
Yeah, and notice the terror response groups are for protesters now.
Yeah, they said it. Exactly. So what I'm saying is they're putting these things into place because they know that people have nothing to lose and they're going to lose it. What we're suggesting is, let's take a different tact. Now, to me, is the time for a new third party. By the way, that's the other way I made my name in my book, Trend Tracking, that I wrote in 1988.
You predicted Ross Perot.
Exactly. Now the conditions exist better than any time for a new third party.
I agree. That's why they don't like Rand Paul and people that kind of represent a third-party movement within the system. I think he is being too political and acting like he's establishment. They're never going to let him in acting like that because they know he's a good guy. I want to go to some more phone calls here. Thank you, Kyle. Great question. Great caller. Adam in Canada, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Gerald. First off, I just want to say God bless you guys as well as all your listeners and everyone throughout the world. I know this is an important cause and highly relevant. I've been a listener for a couple of years waking up. Quick question for you, your crew, and Gerald's take is, I've seen a recent article circulating alternative news media on a class action lawsuit against the Bank of Canada from Canadians. Wondering if that's A, legit, and B, if that's part of the solution we're looking for.
Yeah, not aware of what you're getting at, but I mean...
Yeah, I am. There is a lawsuit, and it does appear legit, and it can really make a difference.
Yeah, because lawsuits get discovery, and then that's how so many of these documents come out. As you know, Gerald, recently it's just coming out that basically everything's rigged.
Oh, it is rigged, yeah. But that lawsuit is gaining popularity, and it's something worth looking into.
I'll look into it.
And it can be the beginning of a change. And again, going back to the whole question of what's going on, that people have to understand that it's not. It is bankism. It is the grand manipulation.
Corporatism.
It's total multinational takeover. And between the Europeans, again, going back to Europe, they are fighting their deal with the Transatlantic Investment Partnership, or whatever they're calling it. It's not going to happen coming out of Europe. It's hardly being reported here. And I just want to take this second, or this minute, to thank you, Alex, for what you're doing to wake people up, the crew that you have, the information that you're putting out, and that everybody out there listening to support the people that are advertising on the show. These are products and services that are proven, that are natural, that are for the benefit of everyone that buys them. And it's the same thing what we're putting out with the Trends Journal.
Thank you, Gerald. Yep. Tell folks about the Trends Journal. Let's keep you one more segment if you can do it. Just 5 more minutes after this to finish some calls, or 6 more minutes after this break. But tell folks about Trends Research, how they can get the magazine, because even if people think they know all this, it's great to give friends and family.
It's trendsjournal.com. We just had a conference here beginning of the year of the top trends of 2015. It's been a blockbuster, a 5.5-hour conference. You see from that what we were saying, what's happening, and where it's going.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. We're going to do what they say can't be done. All right, I want to try to get to 4 or 5 callers for Gerald, and I know you guys could talk for hours. You're great callers, but we've only got about 6 minutes in this segment that he's got to go. Then we're going to open the phones up for vaccine comments and hit a few other news items. But so each person, just throw out your question, your comment, quick answer from Gerald, and then we'll move to the next person. Let's go to Joe in California. Then we'll go to Rob in New York. Go ahead, Joe.
Hello, Alex and Gerald. Great to be able to talk to you. And my quick question is, any ideas on protecting IRAs or 401ks from government confiscation, or how do you feel about gold and silver?
Great question. Obama did just announce in a State of the Union they want to start grabbing your education funds and taxing them. It is beginning. Gerald?
Yes, you're right. And gold and silver, I'm bullish on both, particularly gold. And again, I buy gold from the golden years. At some point, this thing is going to collapse. You're seeing a devaluation of currencies around the world. So gold for long term for me. And of course, the government will steal anything that they get their hands on. And if there's a real market panic, what's going to happen with your IRA? What is it invested in? And where is it going to go?
Thank you, Joe. Let's talk to Rob in New York. You're on the air. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, brother.
All right. Gerald, so the economy, it's not that great. You know, if we raise interest rates, you know, what is that going to look like for the average person? And is that something just to help us push the dollar towards parity with the euro?
What's going to happen, the reason why I had believed that there would be a crash is because when they raise interest rates, this Ponzi scheme of banks borrowing at virtually nothing and then loaning it back to us at anything they can get, that starts ending, and this equity markets start going down. I mentioned what happened to the U.S. market from 8,000 to 18, the 7-year highs in Europe. The market's gone up 57% in Japan from lowering rates. So when the rates go up, this whole thing collapses, and it hurts everybody.
But if they keep pumping it, then it will have its own set of problems. I mean, it's just
Well, exactly. They're devaluing our currencies, and that's why I'm bullish on gold.
Absolutely. I mean, long term, it just spells massive inflation, but then they're engaged in a depression. I hope that answers your question, Rob. Good question. Leland in Illinois, you're on the air with Gerald Celente.
I want to say that the derivatives market, the too big to fail banks hold over $200 trillion in derivatives right now. They just tied that to the FDIC credit.
2,000 trillion.
Yes. So shouldn't anyone with a 401 or RA, CI, anything, shouldn't they take that now and convert that to gold? I mean,
well,
and another thing, what do you think is trending with Russia?
Yeah, I can't tell people what to do with this. I'm not a financial advisor.
You've got to do what you think's best. You
Speaking for myself, and this is a fact. Speaking for myself, let me finish. All of my IRA, and I have to put it into it because I need the tax deductions, is in gold ETFs. Would I rather have it in physical? Of course I would.
All right, Leland in Illinois, you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead. What else you want to say?
Yes, I'll just, and this with Russia, I mean, you know, the Bible says that the world will have a one world money, a one world economy, and a one world religion. Now, in order to get that one world money, which they have already, the IMF has it. It's called
they got to destroy all the other world currencies.
They got to destroy the other currencies. That's why they doing what they doing. That's why the devaluation is going on. The Bible, what the Bible said, it is happening exactly like it said. It just didn't give us the details of that Obama would do this and it would cause this. and that George Bush would do this and it would cause this.
Well, there's no doubt it's serious.
Let me answer that. You mentioned Russia. Russia's been buying gold like there's no tomorrow.
So have the elites. The billionaires have been buying it while saying we're idiots to get it.
Oh, and I want to make a comment, too, about, your advertisers and what I said. So everybody knows that I'm not blowing smoke. I don't know if you know this. I have an honorary doctorate in integrative and complementary medicine from the National University of Health Sciences. The first book that I really worked on was Natural Healing back in 1988. And if you read the introduction, they thank us for getting so much of the research that went into this book from the Trends Research Institute.
That's right,
so
and you kind of helped kick off a lot of the whole wellness movement we see today.
Right. So what I'm saying is when I'm saying to support this, I'm saying it because I believe in it, and it's what I do. I'm not like a Brian Williams.
No, we appreciate you supporting our operation. We support yours. We try to bring people the best water filters, the best quality nutraceuticals. We just try to do to others like we like to be done to us, and it's people's buying the products that support Infowars.com, InfoWarsStore.com. And you've got several fantastic websites. I guess TrendsJournal.com is the place to go subscribe, TrendsResearch.com as well. Gerald, thank you so much. We got loaded phones for you, but we're out of time. We'll talk to you again soon.